Welcome back to Educate a Mate, the podcast that gives you just enough knowledge to sound informed, while secretly hoping no one asks the follow-up questions. Quick disclaimer, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and not a full investigation or maritime safety report. Today's topic, the MS Jan Heweliusz disaster. A ferry voyage that went from routine crossing to one of the worst maritime disasters in modern European history, involving extreme weather, technical issues, and a chain of decisions that definitely didn't age very well. Let's hop onto the ferry and get into it.
Are we recording?
Yep.
Right, we're live. Right, I'll do it proper. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Educator Mates. I am Ryan.
And you know I'm Richard because we've already done the introduction.
Have we done the intro? When now?
Oh, we'll put it in later.
Oh, yeah, we have an actual jingle introduction. That makes more sense. Completely forgot about that. But not like I haven't done this before. This week, I'll be hosting. So let's do a fun fact.
Yep.
Remember, the fun fact is from the person who isn't hosting.
That's okay. I've got a fun fact.
Okay.
I can make these up as fast as you need me to.
Okay. Good then.
What's the biggest thing that can fit down a blue whale's throat?
Your mum.
Way.
Only the older generation will get that. The big a car.
Nope. Think a little bit smaller.
A motorbike.
Bit smaller.
Coca-Cola bottle.
Oh, that's probably a little bit closer.
Oh, really?
It's a grapefruit.
A grapefruit.
Yep.
Into a what? Blue whale?
Blue whale's esophagus.
Honestly, you wouldn't think that. You think it'd be bigger, wouldn't you?
Well, do you know what they eat?
Plankton.
Exactly.
So they don't need to eat grapefruit.
Plankton ain't that big, so yeah, they don't need to eat any big. Like pineapple, nah.
Yeah.
There's a fun fact about whales.
That is a pretty interesting fact. And that is actually tied into today's podcast.
It's to do with whales or grapefruit.
No. Very similar. It's to do with the sea.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to begin this episode with all the facts I have got are to the best of my knowledge, along with an 8 or 10 hour documentary I watched about this, which is quite a long watch.
That's a long documentary.
It was an hour an episode, so it was over 8 episodes, I think it was, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
So we're going to...
Is it just the sea or is it something to do with the sea?
Oh, yeah, it's something to do with the sea.
Okay.
It's not about the sea.
The sea in general. I was like, that's a pretty big topic, that.
No, it's a really big topic. No, so we're going to begin with something called the MV Roland. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Yeah, Roland, like not the rolling machine, the MV Roland, the boat.
MC rolling.
MC Rollins. So we're going to begin with the boat called the MV Roland. It is really weird though, isn't it? Because I do so much research, but I can't get the script nor my narrative together and making it functional, whereas Mars spends 10 minutes and can whack off an hour podcast like it's nothing. So we'll
not whack off anything, have you?
Okay, so the MV Roland is a Norwegian roll-on, roll-off ferry, which is called a row-row in the industry.
Roll.
Yeah. In 1977, it began its life for the Norwegians. But later on, it became the MS Jan Heweliusz.
Juan Julio.
Well, no, Jan Heweliusz. So do you know anything about that?
Is it to do with sea exploration? That was just a guess. I've never heard of him before.
No.
Mr. Juan Heweliusz.
No, so it was a vessel that operated in the Baltic Sea. So it operated in the Baltic Sea. It was a little bit before our time. So the Polish ended up acquiring the MV Roland and it became the MS Jan Heweliusz.
How did Poland acquire a boat when they're landlocked?
And did they not buy the Baltic Sea? The Baltic Sea not there?
I thought Poland was landlocked.
No. It's got the Baltic Sea in it.
Are you sure?
I'm going to go Google now. Baltic Sea.
Poland.
Baltic Sea. Nah, fucking hell, Poland's right there, mate.
No way, Poland. I thought Poland was a lot more south than it is.
Well, now you can.
Is this why I get lost so much?
You can see the map. Poland operated the vessel to Sweden and back. So it only had the routes to Sweden, back to Poland, back to Sweden, back to Poland, back to Sweden, etc., etc. So we're going to go on about the Ro-Ro, which in the industry is a roll-on, roll-off. But it was built in a shipyard by A.S. Boner, a new generation of roll-on and roll-off designed to move.
How many times are you going to say roll on, roll off it?
Yeah, so it's just the common ferry that we use nowadays. So what you would have seen at Holyhead. You drive on, drive off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a little ramp, you drive on.
Yeah.
And then they open the ramp and you drive off again.
I call them roll-on, roll-offs.
Roll on, roll off. Keep rolling.
Yeah. So, yeah, in the industry, it actually adapted quite a lot of shipping. So it allowed trucks, rail wagons, passengers to cross short crossings very fast. So you've got to think to get to Sweden from there, you've got to do quite a bit of a route around to where you need to be.
Yeah, it's further than Holyhead to Dublin anyway.
Yeah. So the rams are extremely efficient, but the efficiency comes with inherent stability risk. So a single shift of cargo can make these vessels very unseaworthy. They're not made necessarily to do big Atlantic crossings and things like that. As it goes in the industry, you'd compare it to the Ford Focus, the thing that's going to get you there from A to B. But
you wouldn't take it to Japan.
You wouldn't drive to Italy in it. Well, you would.
You could, but it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
everybody in Italy will laugh at you.
Yeah. So, and the vessel can destabilize very quickly if there's an issue like that. So, when Poland acquired the vessel, it was acquired in 1980 by the Polish state shipping company called PZM.
Okay.
So they actually purchased the vessel to do the operation. So at that time, it was 13 years old. No, it wasn't. 1970. Sorry. Oh, yeah. 3 years old.
Quick maths.
So yeah, it's 3 years old. And the vessel MS Jan Heweliusz was named after the 17th century astronomer. So it had its name changed to that. When it began its service, it began to operate between Poland and Sweden. That was its sole thing, sole operations by the PZM group, which we need to clarify again, were state-owned. It wasn't a private entity that purchased them, which is quite a big player in what actually happens to this vessel. And the cargo mainly was exactly what the Norwegians had used it for, which was trucks, trailers, railway wagons, passengers, drivers, and anyone that needed quick passage across the Baltic Sea.
Yeah.
So for more than a decade, it served, hard-working ferry, no issues at all. But beneath her sturdy facade, seeds of disaster had already been planted for its destiny. Yeah.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. 6 years later, in 1986, a massive fire broke out in the dockyard of Ystad Harbour on the vehicle deck, and then this catastrophic fire erupted. It was fueled by wood products, chemicals, and obviously the flammable cargo on board. The damage caused such severity that it ended up distorting the car deck itself, warping bulkheads, and this also compromised watertight integrity, damaged the superstructure, and then heat-stressed steel losing off strength. So when you heat steel up, just there is ways of cherrying steel that makes it stronger and things like that. But if you have a reckless fire, it will affect structures and steel structures.
Makes it more brittle, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this happened on the vessel, and repairs took place. And this is where it gets a little bit sketchy. It's not a conspiracy theory.
That's what everyone says before you say conspiracy theory.
It's all documented information, but the Poles at the time weren't too transparent on what they were going to do. So the repairs on the vessel took place, and there is actually crew testimony that stated that the repairs were done cheaply, which was understandable because it's a state-owned vessel. Taxpayers are going to be repairing this vessel, and it needs to be in operation as fast as possible. Much of the damaged steel that had been stress fractured was not replaced properly either. Yeah, and there was many unsupervised repair work and also no classification of style of repair. So welding and things like
So
that.
they just got Roger the handyman in,
They got the cheapest geezer in to get the job done.
just weld it back together a bit and be like, Abby, read that.
Yeah. So this is quite an interesting story. This is why I brought it up. And the ship itself, after all the work it had done to it, there was no true stability calculations to it, because when you carry out work of weight, etc., or doing things, etc., you need true stability calculations and to know what it can sail with and what it can't sail with and when it can. So there is talks about some of the deck being laid with concrete rather than using steel. They actually poured concrete on it.
Nice.
And yeah, so it made it heavier.
Good for parking cars.
Good for parking cars. The Heweliusz did sail again, and it carried on to serve as a Baltic crossing vessel, but she was never truly seaworthy ever again. It also damaged certain systems, certain operations of engines and things like that, which were all replaced. But yeah, you know, when you're trying to polish a turd,
It's still a turd.
Yeah, unless you put some glitter on it. Well,
It's still a turd. It's just a shiny turd.
Loads of things started to accumulate. So there was minor collisions that had happened in the vessel that caused later on more issues, mechanical failures, steering gear issues, hull damage concerns. Crew was complaining about extreme listing in storms. If the crew is complaining that extreme listing in storms,
And maybe be worried about your vessel.
yeah, because if the passengers are going to say it, you're like, oh,
Shut up.
yeah. But if the crew are actually mentioning it, and the stability suspensions on board as well were failing, they had loads of issues. But this vessel was needed to be run 24/7. There was also a sister ship to it that was still operating fine. It had not been had any fires or any work done to it, and that had no issues. But yeah, this is where multiple things come into perspective. So economic pressures on Poland's shipping sector at the time often meant that there's deferred maintenance and rushed inspections signed off that weren't actually meeting standards, and extreme pressure to keep the vessel in operation, because you've got to think about economic factors. If they've got crossings between Sweden and Poland, there's a lot of trade that is going to be lost or neglected, which will impact the economic growth of that country at the time. It was a bit of a thing that was just overlooked in regards to repairs and costs. And these added up to the reason we're going to talk about today, her final voyage. So, final voyage, yeah. So the final voyage. So this is...
Or can I guess?
Yeah.
They took her out to the big sea and tried to sail to America, and then she hit an ice cube. Is it that story?
It's exactly the same.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, no. It's very similar, but it's not that story. It's very similar. But it begins on January the 14th, 1993. And this is why I love listening or hearing about stories of that era, because obviously me and you were very small infants.
Yeah.
But our parents would have remembered this. When I watched this 8-hour documentary on this, or 8 episodes, whatever it was, quite long.
Real dedication to the research.
Yeah, it was so good. And when it came up to begin with, obviously, Heweliusz, I was like, this reminds me of, there is another vessel, the Herald of Free Enterprise, which is a vessel that sank coming out of Holland. And I thought it was that at first, which was going to be translated from Dutch or something like that, which it wasn't. This was translated in Polish, and I had never heard of this, which I was quite surprised with. I was like, oh. And then when I started watching, I was like, it's not the Herald of Free Enterprise. It is Heweliusz, which is a whole different thing, but a very similar catastrophe that involved innocent individuals of neglect of others. So, January the 14th, 1993, I'll paint a picture. One of the fiercest Baltic storms in decades formed overnight. It reached a gale force wind of 12, hurricane strength winds, and waves rose 6 to 8 meters. And the sea was below freezing at the time.
Ooh, chilly.
Spray was turning into ice on exposed steel. and the visibility was near zero. These were all reported, these are all known facts of the time, and when a vessel, the captain of the vessel decides to leave, be confirmed with the harbour master, and the harbour master can say yes or no. And if the harbour master gives you the correct information that you want and he says yes, then it's up to you then to have the discretion to say yes or no. So there is talks about the hurricane, and the hurricane itself was radioed across from Germany across the Baltic Sea, but the Polish harbour master couldn't understand German, so he wasn't aware of the hurricane. He was just aware that it was really rough.
It's just a bit windy, is it?
It's just a bit windy.
Sure, the Germans aren't worried about it.
But if the Germans were pouring through saying, listen, we're not going to sail, no one should sail from, etc., etc., there's a hurricane that's going to be coming through that we've calculated. And it got very controversial. So Harbour Master's like, yeah, you're good to go. Obviously, you can speak German. The captain was like, well, I'm going to go because he said. And then prior to departure, there was delays, and the vessel ended up getting delayed by 4 hours, which means that then the sea and the Baltic Sea intensified.
Ooh.
So the hurricane was coming in hot and heavy now, shit was going down, and we'll touch back on the delay of the vessel for up to 4 hours of why was it delayed, and this is quite a touchy subject, which is still a bit hush-hush of the reason for delays. But what we'll talk about is on board there were 28 trucks, 10 railway wagon trucks, and a mixture of just goods in general. And the vessel obviously departed, and in doing so, at 4:30 in the morning, it began to list starboard. So do you know your difference between starboard and port?
Starboard is on your left.
No. So
Front.
no.
Back.
No.
Right.
Yes.
Fuck.
The best way to say it is there's no port left in the bottle, which means there's no port on your left. There's no port left in the bottle.
Okay.
Port's on the left.
Because bottles are circular.
No. Because we like to drink port, and there's no port left in the bottle when it's on your leg. Starboard's on your right, bow is on your front, and stern is on the rear. So
I think if you give me all four, I maybe could have definitely got the front and rear slightly better.
So it started to list starboard, which is heavily to the right. Cargo started to break loose in doing so, but there's talks and things I've seen in the documentary of the reason why. So when they were on the bridge, the captain was asleep, and there was a passover between deck officers, and one of the deck officers ended up pulling ballast water into one side because the storm was so heavy, and he tried to ensure that the vessel wasn't going to capsize. So he took on ballast water to make sure that the even load and how it was sitting
In the water.
in the water. And when the handover happened, he went to another deck officer, and he immediately saw bleeps on the radar, and they were approaching a smaller vessel. At that moment in time, it was actually the smaller vessel's right of way. So this smaller fishing trawler was radioing through. And in doing so, the deck officer immediately slowed the vessel down, which is wrongly doing so in the storm because he's trying to sustain speed to sustain stability. So he slowed the vessel down, which then caused the vessel to lift side to side more and more.
Lord.
Yeah, and then obviously the extra ballast water on board caused it to tip excessively to one side. And the cargo on board started to stress the chains, and then was getting trucks tipping over. And when I'm saying tipping, these trucks were just, you're talking more than a 40-degree angle now. They're just sliding 45 degrees. They're all piling to one side, and then the vessel starts to lift. So within minutes, it went from a 10-degree lift, a minute later to 20-degree lift, a minute later, 30-degree lift. So within 1 minute, 60 seconds, you're literally feeling the vessel listing like that. So
Which probably feels like it's capsizing, to be honest.
that's what's about to happen.
I kind of guessed that. Well, that's where we were heading.
Yeah. So at that moment in time, obviously, captain was like in his quarters, and he's like, "So fucking hell, what's going on?"
He's like, port side, no bottle left. It's on my left. He's like, shit, the water's in the wrong ballast.
Yeah. So yeah, at 4:37, a Mayday call was broadcast. Severe list, danger, capsize, and the ship started to roll at this point. Emergency action failed, and the force was too great. So many passengers on board were instructed to evacuate. A drill went out immediately. They made contact with the fishing vessel that they were trying to avoid. At this point, they'd kind of like, the best way to describe it is, imagine you're driving down the road, someone kind of like pulls out in front of you, but it was there right away. You're starting to go, oh shit, and you start to lock up and you turn in. Imagine that happening, and then the car just fucking rolling. That's what it was like on the vessel, but all within the space of minutes rather than seconds. So that's where you've got to, if you've got to put yourself in their shoes. So then, as it started to list and tip, the warnings went out. People were instructed to evacuate. But in doing so, when the vessel capsized, it was sat on its side. Emergency lighting was still on. People were trying to evacuate off it. You got to remember, you're in your cushy cabin. You're flat out. It's 4:30 in the morning. You're woken by being thrown to your side, and
Hit the wall.
And then you're trying to get out. You're hearing the alarms. You get outside, and you're on the deck, and it is the coldest you've ever felt, the wettest you've ever felt.
Gone.
It's screaming wind, and there's no visibility, and all you hear is screaming. So it's quite a hostile environment.
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, yeah. And it's very unfortunate because some people that were traveling on that crossing did have children as well. So when that happened, people then started to jump in the water with the safety equipment on, things like that. So the crew itself has, I forgot what they're called now, but instead of, they're a bit like a survival suit. So the bright orange survival suit that they can jump in, whereas passengers just had
like a big old Michelin Man thing.
Yeah, whereas passengers just had a life vest.
They basically just get a carrier bag full of air.
Yeah, so they all like jumped in. So the way it goes, this fishing vessel came around the side. As it came around the side, one of the people on the vessel was radioing through, still speaking to the captain. And
Captain's still in his quarters?
Captain stayed there. So he stayed there.
Oh, just like Titanic.
Just like.
Is that a thing? Do captains stay on boats when they sink?
Yeah, there's a few. It's sole responsibility. You're the captain of that vessel, and there's a reason it sank. Sometimes you want to ensure the safety of others by doing the best you can on the bridge, and then it's too late. And then one's pride, and also another one would be down to you as an individual. You're whole solely responsible. The only people are God and you at that point in time that are held accountable for that, because it's
an act to God or it's an act to you.
Exactly. It's quite a harrowing one to talk about, and I know it's a bit of a depressing one, but it's just really interesting. And this fishing trawler that come by the side could see people in the water, so they were like, "Oh, try and grab
Start fishing them out."
Start fishing them out.
How many people can you fit on a fishing trawler?
Exactly. Well, in doing so, when they were approaching them, they were sucking them into the props.
Oh God!
Yeah. So they were chopping them up a bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
They did not see them.
They saw them, but you got to remember, there's 8-foot waves.
Olivia, so they might turn accidentally, or
you're going to struggle
drift to the side.
Pull anyone out of that, no matter what you're doing. And if your propeller's going 10 to the dozen, and you're going to be sucking people underneath the back of your vessel.
So what I would have done, if I was a fishing
put your nets out and drag them all up.
Honestly, I was like, I'd use all my boys, get a big old piece of rope, just like troll them through the water.
Yeah, it was just carnage.
But I'm guessing, pretty big waves. Kind of forgot there was a big storm going on. Yeah, I imagine like a really flat sea, and I'm like, just get in boat.
Yeah, so there was attempted rescues. So obviously that trawler tried to do what it did, but in doing so, the trawler was unable to do so, and radioed back to Germany, because it was a German trawler in the Baltic Sea. And it radioed back to Germany saying, obviously, this is the issue, this is the scenario.
There's a bit of an issue going on.
Shit's going down, really. And it just left. One of the main reasons it left is it probably killed.
It keeps chopping up people.
As much as this guy's trying to do what he's doing, in the documentary, they actually pulled a guy overboard to rescue him when they could, and they chopped him in half.
Oh my God.
And the captain of that trawler said, throw him back in. And then
It kind of makes sense, to be honest.
throw him back in, we've got to go. They left under the instructions of their captain, radio through to the Germans to express their concerns. And the Polish were also aware and had three big, I'll say big, compared to the Germans, three rather large, equivalent to like Sea King helicopters, like.
Oh, yeah, like Coast Guard sort of thing, yeah.
Three of them, which had actually prepared, and engines were running, and they were waiting for the green go-ahead from Polish authorities to go and rescue him. And unfortunately, it was too close in the Baltic Sea to the west, and it fell under German authorities, so they got stood down.
Oh, so there was an argument about whose bit of sea it was.
It wasn't an argument about, it wasn't an argument about whose bit of sea it was. It was more a question of, well, we can go do it, and they're like, no, we can't get in the airspace. One, it's too risky. Two, it's Germany, and they're about to take off as well. So there's the communication breakdown. So the three larger Sea Kings got stood, not Sea Kings, but three larger helicopters got stood down, and then one German equivalent to Sea King took off, went over to rescue. As they came over to swoop round, got a visual on the vessel itself, listed at this point fully capsized, and they could see like 2 or 3 orange rafts.
I was going to say about the lifeboats.
Yeah, so
I guess if you're in a massive storm with...
Well, so it's capsized to one side, so you've got half your lifeboats now.
Yeah, I guess.
And then you get the people that are trying to get out. At what point do you set the inflatable lifeboat off? Do you set it off on the raft, on the vessel?
Or no, I've seen the signs that says jump in sea and then set it off. Or set it off and then jump in vessel.
6 to 8 foot waves now.
Yeah.
You just set it off, now you're climbing in it.
Bastards just floated off without me.
Even in the documentary, it shows them setting it off and they're just blowing off.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, imagine the stress of that, though, and the trauma of... I don't know, yeah, just that happening to begin with, and then everything just going horrendously wrong when you look over and this fishing boat's just chopping people up by accident.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely fucking scary. And the German helicopter panned round, saw, etc. Attempted rescue on one person. He fell out into water.
The one guy they tried to rescue?
There's multiple people, but the first one they tried to rescue fell out. He got dragged back in. They rescued another one. He got on board. And if I remember rightly, a few people got rescued. Mainly crew got rescued. Because
they're in them big floaty suits.
Yeah, so one gentleman who was rescued, who wasn't a crew member, so he was a civilian, he was rescued. He later died of pneumonia and shock. Whereas the other ones that were in the suits, yeah, they were a lot better equipped.
Less of the hypothermia phase.
Yeah, so currently at the time there's like 55 people on board. Out of the 55, how many survived?
I'm going to be optimistic and say 18.
Half that.
9.
9 people survived. Ooh. Yeah, majority of them were crew.
That's rough.
If I remember rightly, yeah. The helicopters and then the rescue ships that went out to assist. Hurricane winds, freezing spray, 6 to 8 foot waves, and just pure darkness, no visibility.
There's not much you can do, to be honest.
Yeah. Out of the 55 people, 17 bodies were never recovered. So later on, they did manage to, recover.
How do they recover? This might be a bit morbid, but how do they recover a body? Because I'm guessing they float for a bit.
Yeah, so...
Do humans naturally sink or float? I feel like they sink to begin with, and then they float once the gases start to build up.
Yeah, but you've got to also remember how many people got off the vessel. So what do we have? 9 survivors, and 17 bodies were never recovered. So you probably got 9 plus 7, so 36 people probably exited the vessel. 9 were recovered out of that. The other 17 bodies were lost at sea, and then the remaining
were probably in the vessel.
20 odd were in the vessel. Yeah. So at this point, then got a bit hectic, didn't it? That.
Yeah.
I mean, bit of an inquest now.
Stormy.
Bit of an inquest. So
the captain's not there to answer any questions.
No. So we've been a Polish-owned operator. What do you think is going to happen next?
Germany declares war on them.
No.
It's a bit too late for that, isn't it? They've already done it twice.
It's an act of war. No, that does come into it in a bit, though.
Okay. Oh, that's a bit worrying.
So what happens next? What do you think that happened next? You've got to think now. It's a Polish-owned ship, and it's state-owned.
Well, then the people want to know what went wrong.
Exactly.
And then,
What went wrong?
well, the ship, from the sounds of it, probably wasn't worthy to be out, A, in a storm, or B, at sea, really, anyway.
Yeah, well, the inquest found different to that.
This is like really a solid boat, this.
Yeah, so the inquest tried pinning it on the captain for being a drunk, tried pinning it on multiple crew members and deckhands for being drunks, even went to
Did they find the captain's body?
Yes, they did.
Did they do an alcohol
They
test on
did.
him?
And it was 0.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for, and I'm no judge, but I'd go for he's maybe not a drunk, or at least when he's driving.
Yeah.
But they found otherwise.
It just shows how governments can operate when
When they need to.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a cover-up that began. And the cover-up consisted of, 1, trying to frame the captain for being a drunk. 2, it went to the widows to try and get false statements stating that their husbands that had died reported that the sailors were drunk, running around topless, and not paying attention, let alone sailing a vessel.
Who the fuck runs around topless in the Baltic Sea?
Exactly. So they even went to that great
Extensive.
It would just become a fucking witch hunt. And the Polish had a bit of an inquest, and the captain's wife obviously wanted an inquest, and she approached multiple, I'd say, I don't know if they're called solicitors, but like mediators that would defend her husband's honour and ensure that the correct findings were published, along with finding someone that was a professional individual who was aware of the terminology. And she approached many, and they were just like, we're not doing that.
Very niche as well.
Yeah.
Nautical law, and going against an entire government.
Yeah. So it's like fighting the whole maritime sector of Poland, effectively. The gentleman took it on. I'm not too sure on the gentleman's name, and he was pretty fucking shit hot, to be honest. He questioned every single discrepancy. He tried to raise concerns where he could and state, obviously, true evidential fact to be dismissed multiple times, multiple accounts, stating that he's an idiot or a liar. And the truth of what happened never ever really came out, because they were unsure of why the vessel sank, and they were unsure of how the vessel sank. So they are two different things of how and why. To begin with, they were under the assumption that it left the port and it just sank and capsized.
Right, okay.
After a hard turn starboard. And radio communications back with the harbour master was stated, not the harbour master, back with a sister vessel that was in the Baltic Sea at the same time.
Yeah.
Stating that they were struggling. Suggested, well, the sister vessel didn't sink, therefore it's the captain's fault that the other vessel, the Juarez, that's why it sank, because his actions at sea caused it to lift so heavily to one side. You wouldn't perform manoeuvres like that, you'd know the outcome. Well, they weren't aware that there was a German fishing trawler that was going to cause... Anyway, so in this inquest, they actually had a good friend of the captain who actually did quite a bit of legwork, and not backhanding, but giving the captain's widow enough information for her mediator to question the correct questions and ask the correct questions.
Yeah.
So some real big ones are, 1, why was the vessel delayed for 4 hours?
Solid point.
The vessel was delayed for 4 hours, and in doing so, it caused the hurricane and storm to get extremely bad and severe. Even though the harbour master couldn't understand German and then still gave the go-ahead to go, the vessel was over its tonnage by 30,000 tons.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah. And the vessel was delayed for 4 hours for concealment of an additional truck that was carrying weapons.
Oh.
Yeah. And...
oh no.
And this came to light for a few reasons. 1, the good friend of the captain was actually there on the recovery and was very suspicious why their intelligence agency was heading the recovery of a standard ferry operating between the Baltic Sea.
Solid point.
So he got really suspicious about that.
He seems like a smart chap.
And yeah, and they were sending, he even questioned, said, you're sending divers down to check. And they're like, yeah, we're going to recover bodies. How are you going to recover bodies? They're not taking any equipment to recover bodies with. Yeah, but they're going to identify when the bodies are and identify the individuals first and then come back. How can you identify someone that you've never met? Oh, you got pictures.
Let me see the pictures.
Yeah. So he was a bit like, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
Some sus going on here.
Sus going on. So he then obviously started to dig deeper, went through the log files of the vessel itself, saw that it was overweight, and it was overweight 30,000 tons from the original specification of when it was a Norwegian ship. So therefore, it exceeded even more tonnage because of the previous repairs. So it adds on as a catalyst of there's a reason the vessel listed so heavily in doing a precautionary movement that would normally be okay for its sister ship.
Because it was massively overburdened.
It's fucked. It was absolutely shagged. And the more intelligence comes to light where the gentleman, the captain's good friend, went to Germany to manage to get the harbour master's recordings of the original transcript. And
this guy's like Polish James Bond.
he looks like James Bond.
Isn't he?
I honestly saw him and I was like, he's Polish Sean Connery. He speaks like him, he dresses like him, and he smokes like a fucking trooper. I thought, this guy needs his own TV show. But yeah.
That would be a good TV show, this very thing. I'm going to say it's turned into a TV show as well.
I'm going to tell you now, the documentary, he travels to Germany, he gets all this information, and he phones the mediator of the widows, the captain's wife, the widow, and explains what he found. He listened to it. He could say the reason the vessel did them harsh manoeuvres was because it didn't have the right of passage, right of way at sea. He wasn't doing the manoeuvres on purpose. He was doing them because he was going to hit another vessel.
Like evasive, yeah.
Yeah, and the vessel acted unaccording. It wasn't designed to do what it does because it's overburdened, and he got this information across. And the mediator obviously put this information forward, etc., etc. In doing so, when the gentleman comes back from Germany, he crashes his car and dies.
Oh.
I'm not being funny. Is that not a cover-up right there?
That's the start of the Italian job.
And literally it is, but at night time, it's the same crash scene, but at night. You know what I mean?
For a ton and you're like, suspicious.
Well, he hits a fucking snowplow head on.
What?
Yeah. It's just unreal. So yeah, Polish James Bond dies. Just to let you know, he was quite a shock at the end of the documentary.
Rooting for him.
I know, yeah. So the Polish kind of dismissed it, and it ended up becoming, captain's fault.
God.
Yeah. So was a vessel manoeuvring arms that were not illegal, but they were selling them. If you're manoeuvring weaponry, why are you using a civilian ship?
Yeah, you'd surely use a naval ship of some
Use something that wouldn't have civilian access. Or was it because it was state-funded vessel?
Oh.
So they had to do what they were told. The vessel operators were owned by the government, so they'd have to do what they told.
Government's like, mate, just take this across for us, will you?
Yeah, just do us a quick one on this, mate.
Don't stress about the weight of it either.
Yeah. So he comes later on now, so it's a really hard subject to watch, but because we come to the end of what we're discussing, and it's quite a heavy one, it's not as funny as what we normally do, is it's called The Heweliusz. And yeah, if you give it a Google, or even just Google Polish ferry catastrophe 1993 or 1990s, and you'll see it. And that's actually on Netflix to watch as like an 8 episodes of, there you go, the sinking of Heweliusz. Yeah, so it's actually watch it on Netflix about the tragedy, and that's why I was so like, oh, this is so good to talk about. But later on, the European courts got involved in 2005.
Oh, so it still didn't really
get
to bed.
because obviously they tried to have an inquest, but it was held by the Maritime Council.
Which surely is biased.
Yeah. But obviously the European Council stated that Poland failed to conduct an effective investigation. The family's rights were violated and the transparency was insufficient.
That's like, what, 12 years later?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, actually, we're going to talk about it now.
When did Poland join the EU? They're not official members yet. I don't think they are.
When did?
I think it was something stupid when it like 2000, 2006, 2003, 2003, I'm going to say.
2003? Oh, you're so close. It was 2004.
Okay, yeah, and what happened a year later? The European Court of Human Rights found that. So that's what happens when you join the fucking EU, mate.
Nice. Good job we left.
We can sink all the ships in one now, boys. Yeah. Well, we'll just quickly run through what has changed within the industry. So, new stability standards for ro-ros, ISM safety codes, stronger cargo scoring requirements, better cold water rescue equipment, as we stated before, and tighter port state controls, improved oversight of ship repairs. And this tragedy actually helped push the industry, the maritime industry, for modern safety culture.
So, nice.
Yeah, here's one for you. Have you ever heard of something called the ISPS code?
ISPS?
Yeah.
The International... I don't know.
So the ISPS code was as International Ship and Port Facility Security.
Oh.
Yeah? This was introduced for portside security. So when you go to Holyhead, you can't just walk up to that vessel, can you?
No.
No.
They don't let me. I've tried.
No, they don't let you do any of that, yeah? And this is what my law tutor told me, and it fucking made me howl, is this was introduced, and years ago, you could walk portside. You're not going to hijack a fucking ship, are you?
Yeah.
You're not going to do a lot with a ship. There's loads of geezers around, and normally the 10 they'll batter the shit out of you. Like, we're proper talking like stevedores now.
And even if you did get on, you'd have to know how to drive a pretty big sort of vessel.
Yeah.
It's not just like rowing a boat.
So ISPS code was introduced. And that's why you have all this metal guard and metal railing so you can't get into a harbour. And this was introduced in 2004. What happened briefly before 2004? It has 2 towers.
Oh.
Yeah. That happened and everyone shit themselves, which is understandable. We all went to war with each other. Shortly after we introduced this code, and my law tutor, word for word, said, well, when this was introduced, anyone thought they'd flown a container ship into Blue Twin Towers. I started laughing. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, this is why he's here, to stop terrorists getting onto vessels and blowing them up or hijacking them.
What?
And I was like, literally, this is in place for that reason. That ISPS code was introduced. It's a fun fact about that.
It is, but like logically, it doesn't make sense for... So say a terrorist got on, say, a civilian vessel.
Yeah.
Like a ferry.
Yeah.
You'd probably have to get on it when it was docked. When it's docked, people are still getting on the ferry.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're not going to be as effective to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
But I think their idea was, you've got on that ferry sneakily, like a sneaky Russian, and you're on the ferry, no one knows you're there. You've got your gun on you. Now I can hijack the ferry.
What happens if you've got 30,000 tons of firearms?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just sneak that on there.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So the coding like that had got introduced, but that doesn't really affect the Heweliusz. And that's about it, really. It's not a lot. I just thought...
Interesting. 'Cause, yeah, I literally had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah. And that's why on Educate Mate, that's why we try and educate people on things they aren't aware of. It's quite harrowing, really.
So was there any compensation got for...
No.
No.
And even one part, if you watch the documentary, is absolutely fucking hilarious. The gentleman who was a survivor, he's quite upsetting, really, because there was no PTSD back then.
No, you just got on with it. It's like, oh, so what? You fell in the cold sea and nearly died. Got chopped up by a boat and nearly dropped out of a helicopter. And
well, he walks in to collect his wages for the week, and they're like, "Oh, you brought your safety suit back."
Fuck off.
And he was like, what? He's like, your suit that you went overboard with, you brought that back. He was like, I was on the Heweliusz. I was like, oh, what do you expect? He's like, oh, okay. Well, we're meant to dock out your wages, but
We'll let you off.
We'll let you off this time.
Bastards.
And he went, I don't fucking plan on doing it again. So yeah, I think they got like a week's pay or something like that.
Oh, my asshole.
One of the women of the husbands who's declared dead. So he's declared dead for 3 days. He's declared dead. 3 days later, oh, your husband's at the hospital.
What?
She's been told her husband's dead for 3 days.
God.
Comes back, his week's wages. He's out of work now because the vessel sank. He's got no compensation. He's not insured for anything because shit happens at sea, we kind of say. And it's an act of God until there's a true inquest of why it failed, which is there's never been a payout and there's never been compensation of any kind, even though the vessel was at fault and people died because of negligence by the Polish authorities and the government. And this was obviously in 1993, so a lot has changed in the many years. Poland is a very good country and it's a very prosperous country and it's a very, very nice country to go to, but obviously things happened back then. And in one part of it, she actually goes to the director's office and states, listen, we're having issues with our boiler at home. We can't even have hot water. My husband's come back. He told me he died 3 days ago. He's back. One, a widower, can't claim the pension, can't claim his pension, can't claim any savings. You put him out of work now for numerous weeks. He's not himself, and the boiler's broke. Okay, how much is the boiler? And he said something like 20 million zloty or something mental back then, which worked out in today's money, 4.5 grand, because I did the calculations. And they went, all right, I'll get you a check written up. Go down to accounts. She goes to accounts, gets a check for 4.5 grand and goes. If that is not a sign of guilt, I don't know what is.
Yeah, you wouldn't just be like, here's close to 5 grand.
I'd literally say sorry, but there's currently an investigation taking place and compensation paid will be paid and you had your full due. In the meantime, go and get a loan and you get it rebated back.
Suspicious.
But unfortunately, the gentleman who got taken to Germany, he was the deck officer when the vessel first received the radar of another the trawler, who then carried out an evasive maneuver by slowing down and turning without the correct handover of the previous officer, knowing that the ballast water was so full on one side. He actually later on committed suicide because he couldn't live with. Yeah. So honestly, if you get a chance to watch it on Netflix, it is one of my favourite documentaries that I've seen in the last 5 years. And I just want to put out my condolences to the individuals that obviously were on the Heweliusz. And yeah, it's
rough, isn't it?
It is really rough. And I think it's one of them things, especially when you get older in life, when you take things for granted. And we do joke and have a laugh, and it's quite a heavy topic. And when you go and see friends and family in Ireland, and we do ferry to Calais and things like that, and we just take it for granted. We paid our money, we expect a service, and that's that. You always forget that you are at sea and catastrophes can happen. I just wanted to say, don't take life for granted. We're coming up to Christmas. Enjoy our friends and family, and
be careful on Polish ferries. Thank you for listening to Educator Mate. The story of the MS Jan Heweliusz isn't just about the ship sinking, it's about how quickly things can go wrong when bad weather, a lot of human error, and poor decisions collide. And honestly, it's one of those disasters that feels kind of unbelievable the more you read into it. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give us a follow, share it with a mate, and stick around for more weird, fascinating, and occasionally terrifying stories. See you next time.